I know we're supposed to be filling time, but I mean, how are you supposed to fill time with a night like that? Welcome on in. It is a majority of my time today moving. So I have I've been it's been a busy day where obviously if you ever have bought and sold a house, it's been a long one, but it doesn't matter because you want to know what is we able to sit down tonight and we're able to enjoy some Phil's baseball. And what a show! I mean, what a show that this team put on. So, Jack Fritz hanging out with you. Apparently, so apologies for no podcast this weekend. Last night obviously a little bit too late for Seltzer, and then today, I guess like he recorded one, and it totally didn't work at all. So we're here, and couldn't be happier to be here. No final out tonight because I was off today. So if you have questions and you want to get them in, you can type in your questions and Tucker will go through it. But of course, the Hypes podcast, as always, brought to you by Miller Lite. And there's a lot of things to get into with how the team is playing and what this weekend has been like and even tonight, which really just felt like a continuation of the weekend. I know there's so many things to get into. I just cannot take for granted what that place is like on a night in, night out basis. Because every single night, and I don't want to take it for granted, but every single night, that place is electric. And we do the thing where it's like, oh, it's August 4th. It feels like October. This week and weekend felt like October. It just did. Tigers are in town. And it might not be worth it. But whoever comes out of the National League, I think, is going to win the World Series. Like the American League just does not pass the eye test for me. But they're going through a pretty tough stretch of American League teams. Orioles have obviously not been great, but I guess playing a little bit better baseball as of late. At the same time, once you get in that bullpen, it feels like it's kind of game over and you're waiting for the floodgates to open. I wish that White Sox series didn't happen because it was such a fluky, random series in the in the middle of the week while the trade deadline surrounding. Because if you don't have that, you have series wins over Red Sox who have the best record in baseball since the Devers trade. You have a series win in New York over the Yankees, who are pretty much crumbling up there in New York. You have a series win over the Tigers, who heading into the series had the best record in baseball. And then you had tonight where the Orioles are playing a little bit better baseball. They obviously have talent. I mean, you watch Gunnar Henderson and Adley and Jackson Holiday didn't have a good night, but he's had a pretty good month. Jordan Westberg went yard. Tyler O'Neill's been kind of nuts. Hitting wise, they seem fine. Pitching wise, seems like they might have real problems. And and the Phils just took it to him. And I'll get into tonight, but I have to start with what happened over the weekend, because what happened over the weekend is that we were introduced to Johan Duran, who is I said when they made the trade that he's the most talented reliever to ever wear the uniform, and I might have actually undersold it. The fact that he's hitting 103 and it seems like he's re-energized, and you have the whole intro thing. I know it's a big comp, but I think it actually has merit. It reminds me so much of just watching Saquon Barkley start playing for the Eagles. Like, going from Miles Sanders was a good player for the Eagles. They've had good running backs. But then it was like, holy cow, what is that? What is that? Watching Saquon Barkley. That's not how this is supposed to work. That's what it feels like watching Duran. I mean, the second he came in, I mean, the first game, electric. The last game hits 103. He doesn't even mix in barely the splinker. That's what makes him so stupid. It's this. I know this is hyperbolic, and I understand it. But it's hard to envision a world in which he allows a run. It just is. It's hard to envision it. And the fact that we've had to go through such dreck here since Papelbon. And Papelbon's damn good closer. But again, he's Papelbon. And people will bring up, how could you say that Duran is the most talented closer in Phillies history, or pitcher or reliever in Phillies history, when Brad Lidge exists? It's no slight to Brad Lidge. He was great in '08. We all know that. He was 48. Eye test. Eye test, eye test, eye test. Like, this guy is stupid. I can't stop thinking about him. I can't stop thinking about it. He has completely, while I was moving all of the boxes today, from one house to the other, and driving back and forth, and seemingly making a million 5-minute trips. All I was thinking about was Duran. Now, I'm glad tonight turned into a laugher. Beyond thrilled. Great. We needed a laugher. We needed it for the run differential and all that good stuff. But guess what we wanted to see? We wanted to see more Duran. And it's crazy. And I can't believe we're here. But I actually think that a closer will dictate ticket sales. You tell me that you're any kid that is 15 and under, and like the dad says, "Hey, you want to go to the ballpark tonight? We could possibly see the Duran intro." Everyone is saying yes. He's box office. It's really hard for closers to be box office. That dude's box office. That dude, 100% box office. And I know that 70%, maybe being generous, 70% of people had no idea who he was until the Phillies traded for him. We all know now. And it reminds me so freaking much of Saquon. The first second that we saw Saquon with the Eagles, it was, that's different. And that's what Duran is. The first time you saw him pitch, you're like, well, we've never, what is, like, that's what it felt like watching him pitch. You had to talk yourself into Romano. You had to talk yourself into Jerry's Familia. You had to talk yourself into Craig Kimbrell. You had to talk yourself into all of this dreck. You had to talk yourself into Heath Hembry and Brandon Workman. All of this just dreadful nonsense. And yes, he's around for the third time. You had to talk yourself into David Robertson the first two times. This guy's just it. The guy is just it. So that's the opening take on Johan Duran, because he is box office, absolute box office. Now, let's get to the other important part. Schwarber's on pace to pass Howard in '06. Now, I know Howard hit over 300. I know his OPS was over 1,000. Howard in '06, hard to replicate. And I was actually sitting there probably about a year and a half ago. Might have been writing Ring the Bell book, which again, you can still order at ringthebellbook.com. But, and you start piecing together Howard's '06, and you start thinking to yourself, I mean, are we ever going to see that? Are we ever going to see that kind of offensive season in a Phillies uniform again? Howard or Harper won MVP in 21. That's great. But that was more overall stats than, oh my God, what was that? Because Howard in '06, for those of you that were alive for it and can really consciously remember, it was stupid. I mean, it was he hit 58 home runs and drove in 140 some, hit over 300. Like that's like what Judge does pretty much every year now, which is a credit to Judge, but also it's not like that happens all the time. It was an insane year. And at this point, Schwarber has passed him home runs wise. Will he have the overall production? I have no idea. But it does look like at this point that when someone throws him a pitch that he feels like is actually insulting about how good of a pitch he is, pitch it is, that he is just demolishing into the second deck. So I could come on this podcast and I could just blabber on and on about extend him, extend him, extend him, extend him. Don't let him walk into the ballpark tomorrow without a contract extension. And while that's great, I think John knows. I think Middleton is very, very aware. I actually really appreciated Kyle Schwarber, posting about the bank on his Instagram over the weekend. I would be shocked if he wears another uniform next year. I think that the Phillies are motivated to keep him. I think Schwarber wants to be here. He's had a couple kids here. I think that he is pretty. His roots are pretty down here. That doesn't mean that the Phillies didn't colossally screw up just paying him in the offseason. Now he's a DH. I get it. But DHs are just becoming more and more valuable. It kind of is what it is. Otani is changing the market in what he is doing, and you see these guys who are super talented hitters going to that spot, and all of a sudden they're having unbelievable seasons like Kyle Schwarber is having, and uh, I don't think he's going to wear another uniform. I don't think that's me talking myself into it. I think he's going to be a Philly. I think it's going to cost a lot of money, and I think that they're wholly aware of that. I think there's going to be some changes this offseason. There's going to be some players that make a decent amount of money right now who may not be here. But I would be surprised if he doesn't wear another uniform. But the fact that we're having a guy and we're watching a guy that is inching closer and closer to '06 Ryan Howard territory, it's hard to compute. It is absolutely hard to compute. And these aren't like wall scrapers. I mean, these baseballs are freaking launched. I mean, just launched. And what an offensive output tonight. And very much appreciated because this offense. I mean, there was time in the middle of this game before the Harrison Bader home run, which we'll get to, where I was texting buddies and I was like, you have obviously we talked about it, but like Schwarber's having an insane year. Harper, thank God, like 500 home runs is back on track. He looks great. He driving the baseball to center field, left center field, just matters way more. But looking like Bryce Harper again, which is huge. So hopefully calming some fear about that. We'll get to Trea because there's some Trea thoughts that I have. But outside of those three, we always talk about, outside of those three, no one really does anything. And while I mostly agree, at the same time, like JT's had a great year, and Marsh has had a pretty good year, and Cassie's had a pretty good year. It's not super meaningful hits. And what I mean by that is that it's a lot of singles. And it's just they're not driving the baseball in a meaningful way. It's not doubles, it's not home runs. So yeah, overall their counting stats look fine. But I think that the reason why we watch the offense and we say, man, they're frustrating, is because they don't do things in a super meaningful way. It was good to see the offense kind of break out tonight. I'm not going to say that this means that they're totally arrived and now we can expect 5 to 6 runs a night because I don't think that's who they are. But for the run differential, it was big. Now Bader, I know that people do this all the time, and unless it like comes to fruition, no one talks about it. But I was sitting there by myself in my backyard. Didn't text anyone, so there's absolutely no verification of this happening. Saying this kind of feels like the first time we're gonna have a Harrison Bader moment, and boy was it! I mean, it kind of felt like it was setting up for it. And man, does Harrison Bader just look like a 93 Phil. It's crazy. It's crazy. Saw John Foley tweeted about it as well. But like, get the guy like have him just watch whatever it takes, dude, over and over again, and have him replicate it. He provides some juice to this team for sure. Is he a perfect player? No. But I really hope that as the month goes along and when August 15th rolls around, because that feels like the date that we're waiting for, and Crawford is up here, like just let now Marsh is gonna have to be in there. Like there's to just put Marsh aside, I think is foolish. So maybe it's a Bader Marsh center field platoon and Crawford plays left field. But I just there's something about Harrison Bader that it feels like in big moments, he's a riser. He's a moment riser. And at least in 2022, when he hit 5 home runs for the Yankees in the postseason, he's a playoff riser. But he's got some juice to him. And for a team that I think has been criticized about lacking edge and lacking fire, I think Bader brings some of that. So between Duran, who I think is totally re-energized this team, and I think it's actually re-energized the fan base. I do. The way that the Phillies have been talked about since they got Duran and really being able to finally see him for the first time. I think this fan base is pretty geeked up about having Duran. But you add Duran on top of Bader, where we can say, that guy's, he's got a little bit of an edge to him. For a deadline that was a solid B plus, was close, but kind of just missed. I mean, these two guys could really change that. Duran, I think we had a good idea, like he was going to change the feeling in the city. But Bader, again, just someone that I think is a riser. And what's interesting is that Thompson let him stay in there against a righty. We always talk about gut feel versus what does the numbers say. The numbers say that Marsh should have hit in that spot. To the contrary as well, though, Bader's been better against righties this year than he's been against lefties, which begs the question: why not just let him play center field almost all the time? Like just let him kind of cook. But regardless, we got it. Anytime you just have to force feed Max Kepler at bats when he's hitting, he is at 201. So he's right there. Oh, he's right there. He's so close to hitting in the 190s. He's so close. Hopefully, only when you're listening to this, 10 more days of, of the Max Kepler experience. A total swing and a mess. But a truly awesome night down at the ballpark. Luzardo had some struggles early. I'm proud of him for how he bounced back and really grind his way through it and then looked like Luzardo. Is he a finished product? No. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. But I do think I do think that there was something done in the White Sox start or leading into the White Sox start that has led you to believe that you're going to see a better version of Jesus Luzardo. And I think they worked on some stuff out of the stretch that is going to make him more effective from that. But also, it looks like there's been a little bit of a emphasis to take some off the fastball in an effort to have more command and be more in the strike zone. So it was looking like disaster early for Luzardo, but really battled and grinded his way through a pretty solid outing. I don't want this pod to go on any further without just waxing poetically about Christopher Sanchez going 8 innings of shutout baseball against one of the better offenses in baseball and easily could have been back out there for the ninth. The fact that his Cy Young odds are still so far behind Skeens is actually insulting. It's totally insulting. The guy is morphing into one of the best pitchers in the National League, and it looks easy at this point. It looks totally easy, and he's morphing into a one. And it was so. I felt so happy for him last night, but also just like trying to sit there and compute that you've Tariq Skubal saying, who has one of the best changeups in baseball, by the way, but him saying, my changeup isn't even close to his changeup. I can't believe it. Like it is one of the most. And we talk about like Brandon Graham, right? Brandon Graham was a first round pick that turned into a great Eagle. I wouldn't say that's out of nowhere. Jason Worth, forgotten about, picked up off the scrap heap, turned into, for my money, like the second or third most valuable player on those teams during the heyday. Shane Victorino, same kind of thing. Like Rule 5 pick that they tried to send back, and they just said keep him because they didn't want to pay the money to bring him back and put him on the 40-man roster. So the Phillies were able to just keep Shane Victorino, and thank God they did. That's what Christopher Sanchez is turning into. He is remarkable. He is remarkable, and he seems impossible to hit. And I don't know how, if you're a right-handed hitter, what you're supposed to do, because it's 97, 97, 97 with sync, but then bang, out of the same arm slot, 86-mile-an-hour changeup. It's stupid. It's just stupid. So he was just phenomenal. He was just phenomenal on Sunday, and I'm glad they went to Duran. I want to see Duran. I want to see the intro as much as I can. Don't even pitch him on the road. Just let him pitch at home. I don't think they're going to do the same kind of thing on the road as they do at home. So Phil's playing good ball. It's a shame that White Sox series happened. A shame there was a rain delay in the last one. I mean, shame they got it at 4 a.m. for the first game of the series. You expect them to win the ball game like that? I mean, it's hard to say. Hard to say. So I do have some thoughts in the take bag, but we'll roll through some questions here. As we it's a little solo pod. So let's get some questions in here, and then take bag, and then we're done. P Sheep was at the game Friday night and as close to playoff atmosphere as you can get. I cannot wait for for what this is going to look like in October. And the funniest part about Duran is that it's almost like you can feel other teams being like, crap. like there he is. And it's just so rare for us. And I know Papelbon. I totally understand that Papelbon's the all-time leader in saves. Really good. Wasn't this? I mean, that was super, super low stakes. Lidge, oh wait, fantastic. Wagner, it's probably closer to Wagner than Lidge. I know that sounds like sacrilege. It's a pretty good pun, if we're gonna be completely honest. But like, I think that, Lidge had an out of body experience in 08, and then he did pitch to like a 7-something ERA, and then was not totally the same pitcher. I mean, for my money, it's Duran, Wagner, and Alvarado, like the singular most talented relievers. Madsen probably up there. Of course. But it is a total game changer, and like, I think he's legitimately someone that people are buying tickets to go see, which is crazy because you have no idea if a closer is going to pitch, but you also do not want to miss the Johan Duran experience. It's phenomenal. All right, what's next? Jose Perez. My God, how many home runs is Kyle going to hit? 40 bombs with 50 games left. I have no idea. All I know is this, is that he is ahead of the pace that Ryan Howard set in 2006. I would be shocked if he passes that number. I mean, Ryan Howard in the last, so I, of course, was looking this up during the game. So from August 5th until the end of the year, Ryan Howard slugged like a 1300 OPS, 750-ish slugging percentage, 750, 750, and then had 21 home runs. So Schwarber's gonna have to go pretty freaking nuts. He's been on a good run though. Even if he gets to 50, like it's not there's not been many times in Philly's history where we've had a Philly get to 50 home runs. It's stupid. It's stupid. And it's I mean, arguably the best contract year in Philly's history. So again, I could come on here and foam at the mouth and say resign Kyle, resign Kyle. I think the Phillies get the hint, and I don't think the Phillies want him to play anywhere else. So I feel pretty good about that. All right, what's next? Andrew Felliger, my guy. I just don't see how Crawford gets his ABs in the outfield with Bader and Marsh. Even if Kepler gets cut, he's the fourth outfielder. So I think what happens there is that it turns into a Bader Marsh platoon in center field, and then you let Crawford kind of cook out of that spot. I hope he does. I hope he comes up and does great. Like it's always like my protective thing with the prospects where I don't want there to be such insane pressure on these kids to come up and like help lift a struggling offense. So, but you look at the numbers and he's clearly doing something right. I hope he's great. I think he's more of a corner outfielder than a center fielder. Rob Thompson said that they want him starting in center field in Lehigh Valley because he still has to learn the position. I'm sorry. He's been in the minor leagues for how long? So that comment was kind of concerning, but I can't wait for him to get up here. I don't need to see Max Kepler take any more at bats in a Phillies uniform. But again, I think they're going to wait until August 15th because of, being able to keep his rookie status for next year. He wouldn't technically count as a rookie, and there's really no need to call him up before then. So we'll see. We'll see. And I had him take back, but I might as well bring it up since we talked about Crawford. I don't think they would do it. I think it would be a super, super bold decision. I guess I'm just so desperate to have Schwarber hitting behind Bryce because I think having protection for Bryce is massive. Like I do wonder if, you know, would they be ballsy enough to put Crawford in leadoff spot and go Crawford, Turner, Harper, Schwarber? Probably not. Probably not. But he is a top prospect. He is supposed to be someone that can wreak havoc on the base pass. Maybe. It's a super, super bold ask. And I'm debating internally for absolutely no stakes that do not affect the Phillies. But which matters more to the team? Is it Schwarber protecting Bryce, or is it Bryce protecting Schwarber? Because Bryce protecting Schwarber right now is working out pretty dang well. He's been ridiculous. Now, on the contrary, not having someone behind Bryce, they're going to eventually start walking him. You saw that a couple times in the Tigers series where it was like, well, what's the point in pitching to him? Having JT hitting behind him, and that's not a slight to JT. It's just you have these guys like JT and Casty and eventually Bohm. I would just feel better if they were at 6 and below. They're not in this lineup. But if you put Schwarber behind Bryce, at least there's that threat of having someone behind him that can pop a home run. So who knows? But, we're all about bold decisions at this time to try to win a World Series. All right, what's next? From JB, Jack, I don't want to gloat, but the last time I wrote into one of these, it was to say that having Chris Sanchez as your number 4 in the 2024 season feels pretty good, seeing as how he's got number 1 stuff aged well. You're a genius, JB. No, he is. He's a 1 on most teams. He's a 1 on this team. He's a 1B. And no, I don't care that Zach Wheeler has struggled recently. I think that he's close. I think that he has these random four start stretches where he doesn't have it as good as he usually does, and it doesn't look great. What was shocking about Saturday is like I saw a couple times his fastball getting really squared up. And I feel like I never see his fastball getting squared up. So that was kind of jarring. Of course, we are now on monitoring the situation watch, but I never get too stressed about Wheeler. And I think we've reached that point with Sanchez. The one start against the White Sox where he allowed four. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. There it is. And then he responds. Responds. 8 shotty. Could have gone for the complete game. Easily could have gone for the complete game. So what a pitcher, what a guy. And I tell you what, that contract is really helping the Phillies. Really helping the Phillies because a they are a payroll. It is very, very, very uh, you know, bloated. All right. Let's do like two more there, Tucker. Let's do two more questions. From premium, where does Nola fit in? Nola's going to take down a playoff start, and he's going to be in the rotation. Until it's obvious that he should not be, that's where my mind is. I don't think Luzardo, I don't think Ranger have pitched so overwhelmingly well that you feel like you have to make sure they get a playoff start and cannot go to the bullpen. Obviously, I think that Ranger has a track record. He was pretty good over the weekend. It's been a lot more grinded out affairs than not. I actually think Luzardo's looked a little bit better recently. I would trust Luzardo a little bit more, which is kind of surprising. But again, he got on a pretty good roll tonight. But I haven't discounted or given up on the idea of Knowles getting back to being Aaron Nola. Like I refuse to believe that Aaron Nola just sucks. I do. And maybe that'll come back to bite me, but I think there's a good pitcher in there. Against the Paw Sox or whatever they are now. Was fine. I thought he had really good command. He only walked one and struck out three in 3 innings. So it was like 89-90. It wasn't wow. But at least I thought he was in the zone. He looked healthy. So Nola's going to pitch in a playoff game. I just want everyone to be prepared for that. All right. What's the last one here, Tucker? From Jeff, the outfield bench bats are in such an odd spot. Come October is Johan coming off the bench for defense and base running. I mean, with the expanded rosters, probably. I think he does still have value from that standpoint. I think he can change a game late. Kind of the DH has hurt the pinch hitting aspect of baseball. You don't feel like you don't have to do it as much unless it's like an obvious situation where it's a tie game or you're down one and Schwarber's on first and there's no one on and you say, go get me a bag and try to tie the game up. But it feels like that kind of part of the game has been taken away. So Mets lose, Phil's a game and a half up. That Mets team, something kind of. I know that everyone was freaking out about their transition on the broadcast from fans right back to the team, but I don't know if that translates to wins. So Guardians take it in 10. That's exciting. So good to see that Mets lose. Phil's game and a half up as we are starting August. All right. Some things to take back. I wish Seltzer was here for this, but he's not. And it's not to say that I shouldn't be happy he's having a good weekend. I just can't believe they put Ed Wade on the Wall of Fame. And to put Ed Wade on the Wall of Fame when it's Jimmy Rollins weekend, who Jimmy Rollins is one of the pillars of the best, or if you want to say second best run in franchise history, and it's Jimmy freaking Rollins, the all-time hits king. It bothered me. Now, did it bother anyone else? I have no idea. They kept saying over and over this weekend about how he drafted and developed these players. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. They should have put Mike Arbuckle up on there, or they should have put Marty Wolever up on the Wall of Fame. Those are the guys that draft the players. General managers do not draft players. He had no idea who Ryan Howard was when they drafted him in the 5th round. He had no idea who Jimmy Rollins was when they drafted him in the 2nd round. He was probably informed as to who they were. I'm sure he had an idea who Chase was. I'm sure he had an idea who Cole was because they were 1st round picks. But let's not kid ourselves. He's not on the road scouting these players for a total a year or two, or back to high school for college kids. He like it was such a facade. It's such a facade what they've done with Ed Wade. And the best there's two things that you can say about Ed Wade that are positives. One is that he didn't trade Jimmy Ryan, Jason Cole. Great. The team also, yeah, in hindsight, that's fantastic. I'm glad he didn't. So I give him credit for that. He didn't develop those guys. He didn't. He didn't draft those guys. So let's knock off that nonsense. And the other most important thing and the best thing that Ed Wade did for the Phillies was he traded them Lidge, Brunlett, Oswalt, and Pence. That's it. Like, as an opposing team, opposing GM, he helped the Phillies from that standpoint. So if you're gonna put Ed Wade on there, you should put Ruben on there. You should. You should put Ruben on there. Yeah. Are we gonna do a Matt Klentak thing in 15 years? Because he technically signed, Wheeler and Harper and traded for JT. That's it. Like we're gonna put Klentak on that because if the Phillies win the World Series with this core, it's trending towards the same thing. Well, you got to give Ed Wade on Jimmy Rollins weekend. You do Ed Wade. You do Ed Wade in a downturn, throwaway Phillies Wall of Fame kind of weekend. You don't do it on J-Roll weekend. So that's my rant on the Ed Wade situation. All right. What else do I have in here? All right. Final thing here on the take back before we get out of here. Turner is getting back to like just being jumpy for no reason. What I mean by jumpy is that he's just it's like first pitch. I gotta get it. He has to slow down. Like his numbers for the last month and a half, super pedestrian. Again, it's August 4th, August 5th tomorrow. Still does not have a home run at Citizens Bank Park, which is crazy. So we don't need in a world in which this offense is already so kind of pedestrian and frustrating, and we keep saying to ourselves like outside of the first three, what can you expect? Well, Turner's a part of that, so I'm definitely worried about it because we've seen these swings where he goes from great to just bad, and he's been in the midst of it. I mean, I think he's 3 for his last 33 now. So that is really really unfortunate. It hasn't been super chasey, which I think is why I've been slow to react to Trey. But it's also he's getting back to being a little too jumpy. So slow down, let the game come to you, and I think you'll be all right. That's the wise words from me. I'm sure he's going to take that with to heart. Either way, thanks to everyone that hung out. That was a fast 40 minutes. What a time. This team is playing good baseball, and it's certainly an exciting time. So thanks to everyone that tuned in. We'll be back with a full pod, I'm sure, later this week. But for James Seltzer, who is 100% asleep right now, and for Jack Fritz, this has been another edition